Jackson and your experience working with us, and then maybe even some of the talk just briefly, just to inform everybody about what took place last week in Alabama.
Thanks, John. And to all of you who are new here, thanks for joining the phone call. And for those of you who have been through this for some period of time, this is a great experience, as you well know. And one of the things I appreciate about John is that, there's no stone left unturned. And so if we're talking about anything from suicide to post-traumatic stress to racism to COVID, John's all over it. And, I have to be perfectly honest, when he brought this story in from Daphne, Alabama, I thought, wow, that's a bit of a stretch. But, what it really comes down to is that what's taking place in Daphne is also taking place across the country. And you're there in the thick of it. And so to have this opportunity to venture down south and spend some time with some folks there, and some of whom are on the phone call, my new best friend, Drew Jackson, Pastor Jackson, and BJ, I saw you on the line as well. What a great opportunity to immerse ourselves in how things take place on just a really local level, and how the ramifications for that, and how it could grow into something so much larger. We're acquainted with things that happen in Minneapolis and LA, but those are big cities. And then you take a situation like Daphne, where you're talking about 6 teenagers who buy a stupid t-shirt and put it on social media, and the fit hits the shan, and locally. But it could have easily gone so much larger. But thanks to folks like Pastor Jackson and a number of other folks who are down there, we were able to have a really remarkable conversation. First with the girls who were involved, both the white and the black girls, cheerleaders who were involved, and their parents. A really constructive conversation, very open, very forthright, honest, transparent. That took place before the town hall. That's one of the reasons why we actually had the town hall running on YouTube, as you well know, well before the actual start time. But we were in the choir room having a really wonderful discussion at a very personal, heartfelt level. And a lot of growth took place there. And I owe a great deal to Pastor Jackson for the way he knows how to work a crowd, more importantly, how he knows how to engage in his community. And then we moved into the sanctuary, where there were about 60 people in the sanctuary, and a number of you, obviously, on the call. And you saw what took place. And it was I got to tell you something, that was completely unscripted. And, yeah, I know I'm a chaplain, so you're expecting me to say this, but it really was a God thing. That Pastor Jackson and I had never met face to face. We'd only talked a little bit on the telephone call, but it was a group call, so we had not really gotten to know each other very well. And the fact that we could connect at that level and present a really honest, from the gut kind of conversation that we did, I was extremely moved by it. And what comes from this, though, is that we're human, and nothing's perfect, and we're going to screw it up. And in our zero default culture right now, that's really challenging. And we wanted to challenge back to say, does there really have to be a zero default, or when do we get to the point where we accept each other's weaknesses and our stupidity and our ignorance? How do we get to that point? And I think that was the part that was so transformative in that conversation. And Pastor Jackson was exceedingly gracious in his response. I think he represented the position of grace and mercy in a way that few other people could. And if there's a hero in that evening, it is he. So it was a terrific evening. It's still a matter worthy of prayer. Again, part of our humanity, right? Nothing's ever going to be perfect, and it didn't quite iron out all the wrinkles we wanted it to, but it made some significant headway, and more importantly, I think it served as a break for something that could have gone, viral, super viral, if if left untended. And part of the Life Aid project really is all about that, right? Is to get to the heart of the matter. And in Daphne and in the conversations that we've had over a number of different issues, that's the piece that I really appreciate about the heart of the matter that we approach here in this forum.
Thanks, ma'am. I'd like to acknowledge one thing real quick as we talk about the Voice Project, and that is I want to introduce Pastor Jackson to Zed Pitts. And I don't know if you were on, Drew, earlier when I was talking with Zed, but the reason we have the Voice Project, the first reason we have the Voice Project is because of Zed. And when George Floyd was killed, Zed reached out to me immediately, and he was dealing with some stuff between his feelings for that, and then also his dealings with the rioting, the looting, and all of that. And he was very conflicted and very stressed out. And almost at the same time, Adam Bailey, who's also on this call, Paco, who you guys all know, and Overton Nash also reached out. And it was we immediately started a little group, and that became the Voice Project. And it's a veteran-led, veteran-driven operation to build bridges and try to make some sense out of the chaos. And so I'm not asking you to say anything, Zed, but I just wanted to acknowledge you for basically being the inspiration to get it going.
I didn't do much, but I do appreciate you going ahead and creating this safe space, I feel, because it allowed me to, like you said, decompress from all of the pandemonium that was going on here in the Twin Cities and how it affected the whole nation. And I felt like when you created the Voice Project, I was able to help myself identify certain internal issues that I was dealing with. I also realized that people on the other side or in other areas were dealing with similar issues, and they had different techniques that, they were able to navigate the issue, psychological issues dealing with race and inequalities. And how do you bridge that gap between, in this case, white, black, or whatever race is involved with systemic racism in America, and actually humanize the other party? So it really helped, and not it disbanded the sweeping generalizations that we deal with in this nation about a certain group of people, I think. So, yeah, just thank you. And nice to meet you, Pastor. Nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you as well.
And with that, we're going to kind of jump into, as Zed was alluding to, the the stress and how it affects you psychologically. Because after all, Life Aid at its core is a brain health, how brain health and resilience, whole health, physical, mental, emotional, spiritual, all affect your quality of life. And whether it's peer support, technology, functional medicine, or community activation, there's different pillars that we work off of. And as veterans, I think it always affects veterans more personally because they swore an oath to serve and protect and defend the Constitution. And of course, that also translates down to our first responders who are also here. So, when we started the Life Aid program and specifically started working with Al Roker and all the folks that were involved in the project, looking at brain health, I really believe that brain imaging and understanding what's going on in the brain is a critical first step in organizing how you treat someone who's dealing with PTSD, TBI, depression, anxiety, sleep disorders, chronic pain, the list goes on. And I know we have a lot of veterans and first responders that have participated in the program in the last few months, from the retreat we did in Nevada, where we first introduced brain imaging, and then unfortunately Colorado Springs, we were still in sort of the COVID time warp, if you will, and we had some challenges. But then when we got to Bend, we were able to restart, and then of course we have our LA event coming up in November. So what I want to try to do to start off with is I'm going to share my screen here. Can you guys all see that?
Yes.
Thumbs up. All right, cool. So we have with us today Jim Hart, who most of you guys know. He's the brains, if you will, the leader of our brain health program. We also have with us Dr. Chris Whitlow, who many of you know, who's one of the #1 neuroimaging data analytics researcher in the country out of Wake Forest. He and I met at a conference last May in Washington, D.C. We sat next to each other, and I asked a provocative question about why are we using prescription drugs to treat PTSD, and set the room on fire. Anyways, we've been friends ever since. We also have, as you guys all know, we have Matt Crawford. Matt joined the team in Bend, and in addition to showing off his trapeze skills, was very instrumental in helping us. And then we have Dr. John Fellis, who some of you know. He's been on a couple of the town halls we had early on when we were talking about COVID and the effects of COVID. So to start off with, what I'd like to do is I'd like to just, for those of you that are uninitiated or unfamiliar with brain imaging and what it shows and what it does, we're going to look at a couple of brain images from Vegas and Bend, so you can kind of see the difference. For the technical analysis, I'll leave that to Dr. John, and then we'll just kind of go down the line here. So if you can see here, we have eyes closed. And so for those of you that did the QEEGs, you do one section with eyes closed and one section with eyes open. And I'll have Dr. John explain what the differences are there, because I know you guys will have questions with that. But the idea is you do a brain scan, you do a diagnosis, you do intervention and modalities based on diet, nutrition, exercise, technology, functional medicine approaches, and then you see how it changes the brain and does it improve the brain. And so this is one particular individual that participated in both Vegas and Bend. And so Dr. John, if you would like to kind of explain to everybody what we're looking at, you can see some obvious visual differences.
Okay. So let me just give a little bit of groundwork. My whole piece right here can take about 3 minutes, but I'm going to take about 1 minute just to explain what everyone's looking at. So we are talking about a quantitative EEG or a brain map. We use the terms interchangeably. It is an EEG, a brainwave test. It is a functional test of the brain, unlike, say, a CAT scan or an MRI, which generally just looks at anatomy, what is where. This is showing how the brain is actually functioning. So we talk about traumatic brain injury or PTSD being kind of like a silent epidemic, or being, not easy to visualize. But this is precisely the kind of functional test that can visualize the different functional changes that are going on, or dysfunction in the vast majority of cases. So when you're looking at these maps, if the two first lines across the top were totally white, that would mean that it matches a massive database that is totally normal. But if there are colors, that means there's abnormalities. So if it's white, it's normal. And then the bottom three lines, if there were, bottom three rows rather, if there were no lines, no vectors connecting any points on the brain, that would be a completely normal. So you see anywhere there are lines, that's an abnormality. And we'll go through that very briefly just to show what things look like at baseline and then 6 months later in Bend. So looking at the first slide here, it's before. And this is, these two are a sample of larger group, but these are two exemplars that we're just going to look at for just as an intro to what the kind of changes are that we're seeing overall. Las Vegas, eyes closed. We see a bunch of red lines there on the left. That's in a part of the brain, that's in a way of looking at the brain called coherence. That's kind of a network function of the brain. Those are abnormal connections or coherence, functional interconnectivity that is abnormal. Up top and the two lines across the top, in general, the closer it is to yellow, orange, and red, that is an excessive amount of brainwave activity, and the slow brainwave activity over on the left all the way over to fast activity on the right. So if it's yellow to orange to red, that's excessive too much. And if it's if it's a light green to a blue, then it's deficient. So think red hot excessive, blue cold deficient. So we have some areas of abnormality there. And then when we go to the right, if we just looked at that amount of those red lines at the second line from the bottom, that has improved significantly. And then along the bottom line is a speed of processing. There are some other abnormalities on the right and the top two lines, but that is in the eyes closed condition. If we go to the next slide, John, and we look at the eyes open condition, there we go. So you see on the left is the baseline in Nevada. There's a lot of abnormal colors. There's red. There's excessive amount of beta activity in the front of the brain there, the hot red on the left panel in the upper right part of the left panel. And then you see a bunch of abnormal lines. In the lower three lines, the different vectors are abnormal. And when you look over to the right panel, you see a lot of those colors have cleared up to white, basically normal. And you see in the bottom three lines, all those bottom three rows, rather, you see all those abnormal lines around the left are now improved. We can move on to the next. Now that you have a sense of, look at one more patient. So that patient was a 55-year-old female with post-disorder, several concussions or mild traumatic brain injury, carrying anxiety, depression, headaches, PTSD. So let's move on, John, to the next slide. And that is
MT2.
45-year-old. Yeah, 45-year-old with diagnosis of mild traumatic brain injury, and we see once again on the left we see colors up top and a lot of abnormal vectors or lines in the bottom three rows, and then you see how dramatically that has cleared up from Vegas to Bend in the eye state. So eyes closed, trying to relax, the difficulty relaxing and quieting their mind. And lastly, the next is just in the eyes open. Last slide, John.
Yeah, this is. This should be eyes open.
Open. Okay.
Yeah, this is the last one.
Okay. So again, eyes open, lines of over on the left, and a lot of colors up top. The top two lines just with trend towards improvement, towards normalization after 6 months of life aid coordinated intervention, therapeutic intervention program. I'll leave it at that.
Thank you. So part of the process of life aid that we've instituted as part of our program is how do we take these imaging and then use that for a diagnosis so that you can have a clinical care process, and then what's its effects. And so, Dr. Whitlow, if you could talk a little bit about the work that you do at Wake Forest and why these pictures might be interesting to you. You have to unmute.
Okay, now can you hear me?
Yep.
Yep. Thanks. Okay. Yeah. So thanks so much, John. So again, I'm Chris Whitlow at Wake Forest School of Medicine, which is in Winston-Salem, North Carolina. And as a physician, my subspecialty in medicine is radiology and neuroradiology. So I use imaging to to diagnose disease and to guide minimally invasive interventional procedures that we do. And then as a neuroscientist, I use the same imaging tools to apply to the brain, and then to ask questions about, normal and abnormal function across development, across the spectrum of disease. And so, have a lot of experience using imaging on both the clinical side and the research side. And I would say that, we routinely use imaging. We're a massive level 1 trauma center, see lots of trauma. We see lots of patients suffering from a variety of neurodegenerative diseases, Parkinson's, Alzheimer's, brain tumors, you name it. We see it. We definitely see, first responders, veterans, active duty military, and see the kinds of wounds that they have, particularly through our VA. And a lot of imaging is based upon sort of this idea that that we're examining the patient like a digital patient, just like when you go to the doctor, you have a patient sitting in front of you. Well, I have a digital patient in front of me, and I can look at the brain, I can look at the head, neck, spine, and we can see abnormalities there. But a lot of the conditions that we're talking about today, like suicide, like PTSD, and some subtle effects of trauma, aren't necessarily visualizable qualitatively, meaning that we can't just look at a picture of the brain and see the abnormality. A lot of times these are functional abnormalities or subtle structural abnormalities that we can't see with the naked eye. So one thing that we do is implement what we call quantitative imaging, where we can image the brain and we can image structure and we can image function, and we have lots of different imaging modalities in our toolkit, including things like magnetic resonance imaging, which can look at structure and function of brain, like magnetoencephalography, which can look at magnetic fields produced by brain activity, and the list, molecular imaging with PET and Sept to use tracers to look at function of brain. And so, we do all this clinically, but then we also apply these same tools in the research setting. And so the idea here that John has already discussed is the idea that we can use quantitative imaging to, get a baseline characterization, from individuals in a population, try to identify different patterns of abnormality within these populations, and use that information to help guide what kind of intervention might be most effective. We're that's the aspirational goal of what we hope to achieve, and I think we're making progress in pursuing that via some pilot projects and some other sources of generating preliminary data to see if to kind of validate our approach and to kind of make it standardized across multiple institutions. And so anyway, that's the plan, that's the premise, that's the plan, that's how we plan to use imaging. And so again, characterize the baseline differences, sort of different patterns of abnormality, identify the treatment that might be specific for that particular pattern, and then once we've intervened, to look at the outcomes in terms of how that's maybe moved the needle in a direction that looks more like normal, away from abnormal, and then to finally determine if that correlates well with clinical outcomes, which obviously John can tell you he's seen a lot of really dramatic improvements in terms of outcomes, and we think that there is quantitative, there are quantitative signals in brain that are related to that we would like to show and demonstrate, because if we can do that, then we have tools that we can use for more research to find more interventions to better take care of our first responders, active duty military, veterans, and others.
So a couple questions for the team. As we look at baselining QEEGs, I know we have a lot of active duty folks on the call. We have some VA folks on the call. We have some people from Susie Lee's office, who's the chairman of the House Veterans Subcommittee on Technology and Innovation. What would be the advantage of doing an annual QEEG brain mapping on active duty and as they progress in the transition to VA? I don't know if you want to handle that, Chris, or Jim.
Jim's probably in a good position for QEEG.
Yeah, and in regards to that, John, we've had this discussion multiple times. A lot of what we're doing, if we try to simplify it a bit, is we're creating an electrical model of the brain. So the functionality of it compared against a normative database, meaning the most normally functioning or efficiently functioning brain. So with that, in combination of, say, a service member, as they're in service and what they're going through, we're able to see pattern recognition and create some prognostic events as far as brain is concerned. So in other words, we're measuring the health of the brain. Through pattern recognition, and as we're moving forward in our AI development, we're able to take that pattern recognition and again start to be predictive as to where the brain is and then what modalities could actually help the brain. It also gives you a point so that as a serviceman is transitioning back into civilian population and going forward for the VA, you're able to see where the brain health is. We're doing physicals on people every year, and we're looking now at a combination of genetics. We're looking at blood. We're looking at, something as simple as cholesterol. What we're not doing is looking at the health of the brain in conjunction with that, or its functionality of the brain. So on that annual basis, we can start looking at it as to the modalities, for instance, in the Life Aid program, which you saw in those cases that were put up with, I don't want to say simple intervention, but it was a methodology that was behind it, and there's much more that can go with that. Now you can start to predict the health of the brain versus doing, okay, let's take this medication for 6 weeks and see how you feel, and then go to next set steps, and it's subjective. It's a measurable event that we can actually start to look at and guide further as far as brain health is concerned.
So now in DOD, as you're aware, they have to track TBIs and concussions and brain injuries as part of the electronic health record. And so as you do these annual exams and you're looking at how the brain changes over time based on stress, deployment, injury, etc., and then you're able to determine modalities and interventions that can improve the brain, how would that help the VA as people transition? Would it help them do more precise, or make it a less stressful process when they do VA disability ratings? Is that potentially there?
Yeah, if that question is to me, John,
Yeah.
Absolutely. The one thing I would suggest is from just even our group here and some of the data that we've put forth and able to actually the vet's able to actually see what their brain is doing and being able to explain it. In some ways, we've, if you may be able to speak to this, we see a sense of relief because they can say, okay, it's a measurable event. It's something that can be predicted and helped and guided forward versus guessing. It's not subjective. So it gives a predictive model also for the VA and the essence of, from a financial standpoint. It's taking some of the guesswork out. It's really focusing on the specific modalities for those particular items and being able to, save millions and millions of dollars from a financial standpoint and being able to provide better services and deploying those monies in different ways to help the veterans and go to further levels beyond that.
So in the unique way that we've set up the Life Aid Research Institute, can you talk a little bit about scalability and how, like in particular, we can reach rural vets with this?
Yeah, so what we've done with this, just to, most people here know a little bit about my background. I actually, my daughter had a traumatic brain injury, and I've spent a lifetime, chasing pieces to help her. My personal background from a profession, I function a lot in the robotics world and AI robotics. So with this, with the brain health and the diagnostics being able to measure through QEEG, one of the reasons that we're really focused on this area is from a couple reasons. It's a cost perspective. It's a cost of being able to perform an electroencephalogram of the brain, then to be able to put quantitative aspects around it. Its total cost of ownership is much less, and it gives you a tremendous amount of information from a functional standpoint. On top of that, because of my AI background, what we've done is we had done projects with likes of Amazon and things of that nature, where we created pilot centers, meaning we would run robotic systems anywhere around the world from a location in Mexico. We took that model and said, okay, we've proven the deployment or the technology to be able to communicate directly with those particular systems, and we've deployed that in brain health. So we're able to take a system that's in the size of a Pelican case and send that remotely to the location of the individual or the patient, and it's a plug-in-the-wall ready. It's a matter of just putting what looks like a swimmer's cap on, and you plug that into the system and turn the power on the unit. Wi-Fi connects, and then we're able to communicate with your brain live. We're able to see it and do the diagnostics, and then we're able to do a full, a cognitive technician comes online and actually walks the person through it, and then we actually do a brain scan live, eyes open and eyes closed, right in that remote location. And then also we have it established, so once we determine where the functionality is of the brain, we're able to remotely be able to do the therapeutics. So we're able to do neurofeedback, and in some cases, John is deploying hyperbaric chambers that are remote hyperbaric chambers. On top of that, other modalities. Our particular specialty is focused more towards neurofeedback and other devices in that area, where we're doing live training of the brain. We're creating basically the models that you saw in those images. We're retraining the brain to, for instance, when you saw Dr. John had mentioned the coherence, and you saw like this massive spider web of red going back and forth, back and forth. We actually have an individual, simply watching a movie screen, and behind the scenes, we're seeing the brain live, and we're retraining that brain to take care of those coherence issues. And it's like retraining the brain to ride a bike. You ride a bike 20 years ago, and it comes back, you get on it, and you're wobbling all over the place, and then by the end of the day, you're able to ride that bike again. Your brain has retrained itself down the correct path. There's a lot of other analogies that we can put out there, but effectively, that's what we're doing from behind the scenes. We're rewarding the brain for positive results. So the screen goes in and out, things of that nature. So to the individual doing it, it's just watching your favorite TV show or Netflix. for us, we're able to take that deployment that we did at an Amazon level from behind the scenes and have a brain station sitting at somebody's home, as simple as that. And now we know where the person's, the measurement of the functionality of that individual's brain. And if we can't do it remotely, we can then set up a program through the Life Aid protocol to specifically help that individual.
That's great. And also with this brain imaging, obviously there's a sports application. We have a number of NFL folks here on the call. So Mike Haynes, have you been, I see you taking notes. So what do you think about all these players who are dealing with CTE or concussions from playing, and how Life Aid can help improve their lives?
Well, I leave it to the experts. All I do is provide help with the research and try and do what I can to help other players who are struggling. It's about all I really can do. And so, try to remember, my career and the injuries I've had and different things like that. So if I get a chance to make a difference, I'll jump on that chance. So these are, some people really believe it's super serious, and I think sometimes it really is, but in my life so far, it hasn't been. But I'm only 67. I mean, I got, if I'm gonna live to be 125 years, and I'm gonna have a sound mind, I've got plenty of time left.
Yeah, I know the feeling. So one of the things that we chronicled in the TV show was the effect that the program has on the family and the caregivers. And so we have two of those folks that were featured in the TV show here on the town hall today. So Kay, if you're available, I know sometimes you have bad internet, but if you're available to talk about the effects that this has had on your family life and how it's affected your household stress.
Hey guys, can you hear me?
Yep.
Okay, great. Yes, well, in the case of my husband, who was injured in line of duty as a law enforcement officer, the support has just been wonderful, because for line of duty law enforcement officers across the country, it's very difficult to get services because they're not in the same type of situation where they can get services from the VA, and they have to get their services through workers' compensation, which is very tedious, and they mostly deny, delay, and don't pay. So this was our first actual chance to be able to get brain scans. We're 11 years out almost, and to actually be able to see what is wrong with his brain was, just life-changing to me. It was a verification of what we already knew, but it actually put pictures to behaviors, if that makes sense. It actually allowed us to be able to see what it is that is wrong, and then to be able to finally get some kind of support, treatment that actually targeted his brain injury and gave him hope and potential for some improvement has really been a huge life-changing thing. I mean, when you go, it'll be 11 years in November, but after you go for so long and I've been advocating for his care for years, John, as you know, and to finally have somebody actually hear that and to help has been just really great. And I just pray that this is just the beginning and that it opens doors for more law enforcement officers that are injured and for our veterans and our first responders to actually get the help that they need. Because I believe that because they lived and they survived their injuries, they deserve to have a good life, the best life that they can have, even if they require help to do that.
And so how has Himberto's improvement affected the home life and the stress in the home?
Well, it's just great. I mean, just to have an improvement in mood is, I mean, I don't know if you guys know what that's like, but I mean, just to have an improvement in mood is wonderful. And I don't know, at some point you can't help but there are times, I'm going to be honest, guys, at times I lost complete hope that things are going to get better. And then you just try to make it one day at a time. If one day's too much, you do 1 minute or 1 second, whatever it takes. But to actually see, when I walked down that hallway and he actually reached out to me verbally and said, "Hey there," that was huge, because I've been walking down that hallway 1,000 times a day checking on him, and he has not reached out and said, "Hey there," as in even to acknowledge my existence. So to actually have him do that, I mean, I just stopped. I just stopped dead in my tracks and looked at him. I just couldn't believe it. Now, right now, we're empty nesters, so our kids are not home to see this, and because of COVID, they have not been able to even come home and see him. But, I mean, it's huge for the family. I can't tell you how huge it is. It gives us hope that, things can get better. And just to have an improvement in him being able to reach out on a level to say, hey, I know you exist, acknowledge that I'm actually there, was, I mean, a huge thing. It's just hard to say.
Well, I know there's a number of vets and people on this town hall who knew Humberto 4 years ago, 5 years ago, 2 years ago, and knew what he was like. Christine is one, Sean, Javi, a couple others. When he was in a wheelchair, wasn't talking, wasn't moving, and then to see what he was like in Vegas, and then how it translated into the TV show.
And, for the TV show, I thought what was remarkable, I mean, I never know what's going to come out, John, whenever he actually does say something, but whenever he actually said what he felt whenever he was riding a bike, I mean, we didn't know what was in his mind. I mean, I could tell, the first time I met you when we were 4.5 years out and he rode for 3 days, and it was so funny. He said, the funniest thing on the way home, he said, I have no idea where I have been, but I have seen the biggest hills I've ever seen. I mean, that just came out of the back seat, and I'll never forget that. But when we were walking in the hotel, and after 3.5 days, he put his arm around my shoulder. I mean, he had not reached out to touch me, or he doesn't even like to be touched. At that point, and that's been years ago, I knew that we were on to something. But I also knew that it was going to take consistency, and it was going to take, that was not going to be enough. It was going to take another time and another time and another time. And as you said on the show, it's been over the years, it has been, they need more than one opportunity to actually be able to experience this, because people like my husband, that I've said and I've said it again, we're so far gone. One time is not enough. They have to have this over and over and over. And when I walked in with him, with a group of people that actually, it didn't matter how, I mean, the veterans understand us. It didn't matter how he acted. It didn't matter how he was. Everybody just accepted us in. And then we kind of just worked with it over all these years. And John, I thank you, because you kept allowing him to come back and come back and come back. And, and to the point of next year, you've got all these events lined up, and Himberto needs to be at every single one of those events, because he needs to have this, it has to continue. So what we need is that consistency, and we need to have the funding that comes in to support these injured people, because it takes time. It doesn't happen overnight. So I'm hoping that the show will get the word out. The show was phenomenal, but what we really need is we need that funding, because especially our injured officers who have no funding at all. There's nothing across the country that funds them. We have to have that for them to give them the most opportunity to come back. And it's going to take time. It just takes time.
All right. And so, Cindy, you were also featured in the TV show, and we've seen over the years some remarkable progress with Jose. So speak about how in the last, let's say since Vegas, how much has your home life improved?
Hi everybody, I'm Cindy. I guess the best way that I could put biggest trip is we've been with you, John, for what, like
7 years.
7 years, and I mean, I don't want to disencourage anybody, but in the last 7 years, it hasn't been easy. But I could tell you this, when we first got together, we were, in our 20s. Jose, if anybody knows Jose, he's a Navy veteran, above the knee amputee. So he was heavily medicated.
How many prescription drugs was he on?
He
Like
was
17 at the time.
At one point, he was prescribed 17 meds altogether for one, I guess.
Just 1 month.
Yeah.
Just 1 month, I had a 17 med stash.
And, part of being a caregiver for somebody, a veteran, or just anybody handicapped, it's pretty hard. I'm not going to cry wolf or anything, but one of the things that I have seen is that one of the things that I can kind of relate with other veterans, even I'm not a veteran, but even coming on to, the rides and all these retreats, is I can see not just Jose's lifestyle and way of being at home, because I can sit here and say all the things that we go through, bugs me, stuff that I can't help Jose with, but I've known great people along the way on these retreats. Arlene is one of them. Ginger's another one. Paco. And I could tell you that getting to know them, getting to know, I guess, their side of the story when it comes to their military life or their experiences, is I know how to help Jose because I can kind of talk to all these other guys and ladies, and they can kind of help me see, you know what, Jose's the way he is because this is what I went through. So I'm not stuck being here at home thinking, how am I going to help Jose? How am I going to... I can kind of give him his space, let him go on these retreats, and I don't mean you have my permission. I want him to go because he gets to experience talking to other veterans. He comes home and tells me oh, I spoke to this person and they encouraged me this way. And after he got the brain scan, he didn't know, but he had a TBI.
Yeah.
We didn't know that. So now knowing that is oh, no wonder you forget all these things that I ask you or remind you or whatever. It's one of those, I have the support from other veterans, other spouses that I don't have. I can go with my family and ask advice, but they can't give me the advice that I need in order to help my husband, or the pain level that he goes through. I mean, I'll take a Tylenol, I'll go to sleep, and I'm good. But Jose, even if he goes out to ride with the friends, he comes home and tires himself out, goes to sleep, he's good, and he doesn't have the side effects of medication. He doesn't have the side effect of there's days when he doesn't sleep 3 days, right?
Yeah.
I'll come out, he's playing video games, or I'll come out, he's reading, but he does not sleep, and you can see it in his eyes. He just looks off. But, having the contact with, just going with John, we live, an hour away from John, and there's times when we've gone over. We have that support, and that's what I'm trying to say, going on these retreats. Vegas was when he got the brain scan. We had interviewed. He's gone to Colorado. We've gone to Colorado together, and then he went to Oregon. And he just comes back refreshed, He comes back with different stories, and I like that about him. I like that this program is able to not only just, hey, come biking. It's not just that. It's the friendships that he's met along the way. My son is 1 year old, and him and Ginger are best friends. Every time they see each other, it's that's a great memory that I have as a mom. But not only that, it's just the help that Jose gets, and the fact that we can call John and just say, hey, you know what? Oh, that's one other thing. We live in an apartment community, and when the COVID happened and we were just stuck here at home, we were dude, what are we gonna do? We can't go anywhere. We can't take the kids anywhere. We're both going crazy. We can't even go for walks or whatever. So we decided to bike in our garage, and it was working. But then we were thinking, how do we expand this? we started talking to the husbands and the wives here, and everybody started getting bikes. They started getting baskets for their kids to attach onto the bike. And we started actually doing community rides. And, you know, one of our neighbors couldn't have a bike, so we told John, hey, John, you know, we need an extra bike. Can we borrow? He let us borrow like 5 or 6. I don't remember. So it's like little things like that, that, you know, you think, oh, you can't like get a $200 bike. There's families here that we know that really can't. So, you know, just the help that we can provide, bringing their kids along, taking a picture, sending it to John, like, I think that's just, you know, awesome. Just the friendships, the improvement that we've seen, that I've seen, and just, you know, Javier's another one that I forgot to mention, but him and Jose and Javier, whenever they get together, it's like laughing nonstop. And
It really is.
Javier's videos on social media, guys. They, you know, it's like just the little things. You know, it's a process. It's not like overnight. I went on this retreat and I'm fixed or saved or whatever. It's a process. Like, I just want to encourage those that just started out coming with us or joining these conversations. Like, it's not just I sat on this meeting and, you know, I didn't get anything out of it. You will get something out of it if you put your time, your effort, reach out to, you know, it might take a day or two for them to reach out back, but you're going to find that connection that you're going to get along with somebody, or you're going to find a similarity to somebody else, or maybe not even another veteran. It could be the spouse, the sibling, or whatever. You know, it's just reach out to somebody, and that somebody will reach out to you back. It's not, you're not alone. That's pretty much what I want to say. As a caregiver, you're not alone.
And then I guess one thing I could add to that too is, and you may, if you're in the chat, you may see it, and if you didn't go to Oregon, you're probably like, what the hell is this group talking about? Like, what are they talking about halfway there? Like, I'll tell you the what the halfway there means. So we went on a hiking trip, right? And they're like, oh, it's gonna be like about maybe 6 miles total loop, right? So we're
Three.
you know, 1 mile in, we're like a quarter way in, and then like 2 miles in, we're like a quarter way in, and then like 3 miles in, like we're still a quarter way in, and then at that point we start hearing, like we're halfway there. And I was like, that's cool. They're like, if we turn around now, it's 6 miles, but if we finish, it's 6 miles. So to me, it makes no point to turn back around. Might as well just finish the 6 miles, right? But we finished the 6 miles, but we weren't there yet. You know, it's like, it's like, oh, this is the halfway point. And I was like I heard that like 2 mountains over, like halfway point, you know. But I guess the point that I'm trying to get to is you'll never know really what the halfway point is. Like, and I don't mean just about the height, but about life period. You know what I mean? But if you haven't been to a retreat and you haven't had a breakthrough, then you need to come to a retreat, because every single retreat has a breakthrough. It's just a matter of, are you willing to go there? Are you willing to find it? And once you do find it, it's like, do you persevere to keep going, or are you going to turn back around and not encounter because you decided to turn around? You know what I mean? And then one of the guys was like, hey, we look like we got some good branches here. We could probably make like a gurney. We could drag you back down the rest of the mountain. I was like, no, I'm not going to do that. Like, he was like, well, are you sure? Because we could do that, like, at any point. And then with Bill, we kept saying it. And I'm like, well, in my mind, I'm like, damn, like, he's really willing to carry me all the way down. Like, so that tells me to the level that the person is willing to go for me. So it's like, I'm gonna meet that. I'm gonna match that. Like, but I'm gonna keep going. The only way I keep going really is if I absolutely cannot keep going. But if I can, then I'm gonna keep going. Why? Because that's what keeps others moving. You know what I mean? And others are willing to move for you, then you move for them. You know what I mean? You'll finish together some way or the other, but we'll finish together. You know, and but I was only there for like a day and a half. You know what I mean? And it was just nonstop laughter. It was story after story after story. And sometimes, you know, the WhatsApp will be like, what are they talking about? Like, come show up and you'll see what we talk about. You know what I mean? And every retreat will have his own experiences, his own stories to tell. And that's what keeps people moving. You know, so it's just one thing that I want to share about Ben or any other retreat, really.
So, Jose, you mentioned that at one point you were on 17 prescription drugs. What are you on now?
It's cyclobenzaprine, the muscle relaxer. I'll take it as needed depending on what I'm doing. Like, it would have been nice up in Bend, but but it would have been nice up there, but I didn't take it. But I only take that as needed when I either go too hard or on the days that I don't sleep, then I'll require it, but it happens. So yeah.
So you're basically on one.
Yeah.
17 to 1.
Yeah.
That's pretty
So
remarkable.
I had stuff. I've been on Ambien, trazodone for sleep. They went anywhere between 50 to 75 to the max dose was 150 that I was on. I was up to 20 milligrams of Ambien, and then I was stuff for nightmares, and then I was on stuff for the nightmares, for the stuff that was giving me nightmares to prevent the nightmares. Then I was for those nights. It's like it was just stack after stack after stack after stack to the point where I was like, you know what, I can't take this because as it is, I'm not sleeping, and I take it to go to sleep, and it still doesn't work. At that point, it got to a point where I felt like my body was just like collapsing within, and then like bursting back out at the exact same time. And that's when the thought started like creeping. Like, if I'm not going to get better, then why am I going to stick around? You know what I mean? And that was the first time I ever attempted in my life where I took a whole month full of prescriptions like in 2 days, And then after that, I felt like the ultimate failure. Like, who the hell fails at killing themselves by taking so many drugs? Like, and then time went by, and then the next time I tried it, it was with a gun, and then I just couldn't pull the trigger. So it's like I went from that to like this, and what this is for me is like simply like coming and doing for others. Like Cindy mentioned the bike group. Like, that's what we started here in our apartment complex. Renatus met Gus, John's met Gus and JR, and that's what we got going, simply because this is what I've learned to give me peace. It's been Bible studies and bike riding. I just combined them, and I'm just simply sharing with as many people as I can, because we all deserve to have a peace. We all deserve to not be hated by our families by something that they don't understand. Not that I got there, but I've been in situations where I've heard stories that like their kids don't like them because of what they went through, and because of the side effects of all their medications and not sleeping and the drugs and then the alcohol. And I was like, well, that's not going to be me. That's not going to be me. I didn't want family. I didn't want kids, but, meeting John and cutting down the prescriptions and bike riding. And, some of you have met my wife, some of you have met my kids, my wife and kids. So that goes to show the change that this has had on our family.
We haven't gotten a divorce, so it's working.
I'll keep pedaling to not get a divorce.
It takes a village, definitely does.
Yep.
So
sorry, long answer, but that's the truth.
So we have some first responders, and I mentioned Adam's name earlier, and he's relatively new to the program. He came here for the first time through a referral through another vet that was connected to the program, and his first event was Vegas. So Adam, if you could talk a little bit about, from your perspective, especially because you're from the Minneapolis area, and that's obviously a ground zero right now, at least since the end of May. Talk a little bit about your journey and what it means for the first responder community, which is under a lot of stress right now.
Well, I think, Kay already mentioned it. There's not a lot of resources for law enforcement officers like a community like this, or any first responders. And so to have that opportunity to be included and to participate in this program has meant the world to myself and to my family. I mean, my first retreat was actually in LA last November.
That's right, with Paco.
Yeah, with Paco as my roommate. So I was a little hesitant to go down there because I was kind of introverted at the time, and certainly withdrawn a little bit from others. And I went there and I met Paco, who was my roommate, who was this boisterous, outgoing vet, who was just full of energy. And, we ended up making, some connections and having friendship. And I mean, without that kind of connection and being able to sit around the fire at night with Javi and Ginger and everybody else that was out there, Eric. I mean, it just meant the world to me to connect at that time, especially with others that were experiencing the same symptoms and going through, the same thing that I was going through. And there was a time where I thought, I don't know, I must be making this stuff up. Like, it's all in my head, like, pull it together, like, get over it. And to see the brain scan and to actually, come to the conclusion, like it's not me, like, I'm not broken, like, I'm fixable, like, I'm injured. And to see that was so gratifying and, I guess reassuring to know that it's an injury and to hear, like, there's a process and a way to make it better and to heal it. And so that gave myself so much hope and my family when I came out of there. And they said, even after that first retreat and coming back, they said I looked like a completely different person. I mean, just being around and not feeling that anxiety, being around people or talking about what I'm going through or what I was feeling, and to hear those other stories, I mean, was tremendous.
And I know that since Vegas, you had really embraced sort of the functional medicine part of our program with diet, nutrition, and exercise. And talk a little bit about how that improved your life, and tell everybody how much weight you've lost and all that kind of good stuff.
Yeah, so with how I was feeling, I tended to gain quite a bit of weight over the last couple of years. And when I went out to LA, that was part of my apprehension. I had barely ridden a bike, let alone 20 or 30 miles at a time, and being out of shape and overweight. But I had people there, again, just to talk briefly about the support. I mean, there were people there coming up and pushing me up the hill because I couldn't make it all the way on the climbs. And they didn't know me. I mean, they had met me probably an hour before, but they were there to help me. And it was like I had known those people for years. Coming out of the program and having the brain scans, and again, it's part of hearing that process and having the opportunity to know that there's a healing process and there's a kind of a process and an end game, helped a lot. So I jumped on board with everything. I mean, I was taking the recommended supplements. I went into a paleo diet. I started exercising nearly every day. I immediately bought a bike trainer the day I think I even ordered it on Amazon before I left LA last year. So it'd be there. And I started riding the bikes. So I ended up losing probably about 40 pounds in about 3 months and got back down to more recognizable me, I guess, and where I was just feeling lighter, healthier. It just helps even just with the depression. I mean, when you're so far removed from where you are or were, I mean, it brings you down as well. So, I mean, it gave me much more positive and motivation.
Nice. I mean, I think everybody that has seen you and been around you since the first LA event and through Vegas and now through Bend, notices a big difference in how your demeanor, your patience, your calmness, and you look healthy. And you were smart enough to pass the rope.
And you're funny, Adam.
That was the best decision I made out in Bend. You look ready, man. Oh, wait.
So I want to throw it to Arlene. So Arlene is a unique person in our program. She's been around for a while. She's participated in a number of retreats. She was featured in the TV show. She was in Vegas. And then when she got back from Vegas, she got dumped into 110% COVID duty, COVID this all the time as a nurse. And, it's just one stress pile into another. So kind of talk about your journey over the last few months. You have to unmute, though. You turned off your camera instead.
You did say she was unique.
Yeah. You got it, Arlene?
Maybe Katie could help her.
I think Katie's in a different spot. Hit the red button.
You're halfway there to the red button.
Well,
Oh my God.
Yeah, too loud.
Bro, we need a shirt with Romo on the front, halfway there.
yeah, we're
I'd
gonna have
wear
to
it.
incorporate that slogan onto our. For those of you that are on the call, we're waiting for Arlene to come back. We have new jerseys that we're gonna get ready to order, and so I think we're gonna have to put that slogan like on the back pocket, at the bottom of the back pocket, so that we can always remind each other where we are. I see.
You're always halfway there.
Absolutely.
I see.
And it's like with a picture of him giving order too. Like that'll be best.
Yeah, we'll have to work on that, Renata. See what we can come up with. That has to be immortalized, and it.
Oh wait, I got it.
There she is.
I got it now. Yay! It took me a while.
You got to conquer technology.
So I've known John for 10 years. Unfortunately, I've gotten fatter instead of skinnier. But I tell everybody, every bike ride I've gone in the last 10 years has been life-changing for me. And I think having the scans done has helped me understand what was going on, because before the scans, it was more like, well, you just gotta change your behavior. You just gotta get happier. And being able to look at the scans, it helped me and really truly understand my PTSD, my TBI, and the impact it has on my family. So, and looking at the how it's improved has been amazing, because all I've done is I've gone on the bike rides, I've done the Zoom calls, I've taken antidepressants, and I've taken the vitamins, brain vitamins from Dr. Amen's clinic. And I've done that the vitamins I've done religiously. And I feel an improvement with all of that.
David. So that's awesome. And then talk a little bit about your family, because obviously your daughter came to Colorado Springs, and your family has come on events in the past, but particularly now because of the COVID era, I'd like to have you speak a little bit because of the extra stress that you were dealing with there.
Well, I mean, we have stress at work, and then like yourself, having kids who are taking classes remotely, and then just being isolated because we're not going out. So like when Colorado came, I knew I had to go. I had to get out of the house. I had to go. And I think for my daughter, I mean, I can't speak for her. She's on, so she can speak for herself. But I think I think it helps her realize what I'm going through, just like when Cindy spoke, that I'm not the only one that's having issues, and that she's not the only family member having to deal with, in her case, her parent having issues. You know, I think it gave her a better understanding. And I think she appreciated going up the hill.
Uh-huh.
So, as she was cycling. You know, because it was more than going up the hill. It was just seeing that struggle and conquering it. So.
No, there's a lot of life lessons that in these little, even in the slogan of halfway there's some life lessons.
Mm-hmm.
So, Christine, you were a first-time participant in Bend. It was the first opportunity for you to participate with us. Talk a little bit about what that was like, and you know, what was your impression before, and what's your impression after?
You have to unmute yourself, Christine.
There you are.
You got me? Well, I had no idea what to expect because I had to fill in for another peer support person from the Wounded Blue. And so when I went there, I really went there with an open, like a clean canvas. I had no idea what to expect. I mean, I had some idea that there were going to be a lot of veterans there or active duty, and that's it. And then I had to get a puffy jacket and boots, and I live in South Florida. I mean, but when I got there, it was an instantaneous feeling of family. It was hard for me at first because I thought maybe I didn't belong there. And then as the days progressed, I mean, I left there with people that will be in my life forever. Just the activities that you set up for us, John and Renata. I saw this group effort to make sure everybody is helping each other, and there was a bond there that I don't think I've ever had with any of my police organizations, and I belong to many. I've been to many things with other officers with PTSD and brain trauma, but nothing melded together as strong and as imprinted in my mind and my heart as this trip to Oregon. And I think that going there helped me out a lot. I mean, I have a lot of different things with my kids because when my injury happened and I went through hell with my PTSD, I had the same thing. I was on all sorts of drugs and, you know, wound up putting a gun in my mouth and wanting to go. My kids still, they don't know because it was before they were born and they still don't understand it. So, I mean, for someone like Kay to come out and to be able to say this, and yes, it all is a process, and also Arlene, that the family gets to know what their significant other and even Jose's wife, I mean, I had none of that back then, nothing. And I'm not asking for, you know, anybody to feel sorry for me because I've come this far, and for whatever reason, God put me into the place to be in Oregon, and so many things make more sense to me, and I'm just really grateful. It's an amazing program that you guys put together, and I would tell anybody to try to get involved.
Thanks. As we
Christina, I was just going to say one word, John. Javi and I picked up Christine from the airport when she arrived, and I could tell bundle of nerves, anxiety, stress are a bunch of words I could use to describe her. And by the end of the week, that was all gone. I mean, it was a different Christine than I saw who arrived. And I can say that about everyone that arrived. The way they were when they first showed up to how they left. And then how the group is still there for each other, 2 weeks later or whatever it is. And it's pretty amazing to see.
And I want to ride. I mean, Tyler lives very close to me down here. So, I mean, I want to be able to get a bike and maybe go riding with him. But it really has influenced me a great deal with a lot of different things.
That's awesome. And yeah, just be careful riding with Tyler. He was on the call, but he dropped off. But just make sure you have a map, because he might get you lost.
Oh, well, I'll be halfway there, wherever.
That's exactly right. Halfway there. So as we look forward, our next retreat is coming up this November in LA. And I want to recognize Gabe from the Dodgers. I know he's on. And the Dodgers do a great job of supporting veterans in general, but they especially for whatever reason, they really like the Life Aid program. So Gabe, I don't know if you want to say anything about your support of veterans or Life Aid or the event in November.
Yeah, can you hear me, John? Yeah, so thanks for having me. It was a great conversation today, but it's been a pleasure working with John for the last year and a half. He's helped me with many projects and vice versa. We're looking forward to November, but it's been, to be honest, living in LA and the sports world, it's been very challenging with COVID. They have probably the tightest restrictions in the country right now for a lot of things. So we're going to try our best to put on the best possible retreat with John on that specific date. We're still on board, but we're working through a lot of protocols via MLB, via the state, via the county. A lot going on, but we're going to keep trucking along and see what we can do.
Yeah, so hopefully the prediction of the COVID will clear up after November 3rd. Will be seen.
Yeah, we learned a new word in Bend too. It's called superflex.
Yeah. Okay. I like that. But that's a good one, John. So we'll see.
John does not forget that one.
Yeah.
Super flex, man. Whatever's written on the paper is only good until 5 minutes before departure.
True. But yeah, looking forward to it, John. We'll see what we can make happen.
Like with when you're dealing with all these veterans, they'll tell you when they're in the service, you always had your battle plan, and as soon as the first shot fired, the battle plan went out the window, and it was improvised from there. So we're looking forward to it. I know we have a big community event on the 10th, and then hopefully we're on the field at Dodger Stadium in some way on the 11th. So we're looking forward to that.
All right. Sounds good.
Does anybody have any? I know there's a lot of questions from the group in Bend about the brain imaging, and just want to let everybody know we're gonna next week's happy hour. Jim and Matt and the team, Dr. John, will be on, and we'll go through the brain mappings and explain to you what you're seeing. And we didn't want to get into too much technical stuff on this particular call because it's personal information, so we want to try to keep it more closed. But for the group that was in Bend, we'll get together next week and go through. Matt and the team have got them all done, and we're looking forward to sharing that with you, because I think it definitely does make a difference, and especially for the folks that have done multiples. It'll be great. And for those that didn't make it to Bend, like Paco and Ginger and Kay and Himberto, they'll be able to continue on their journey when they get to LA. Does anybody else have anything, comments here? We're coming up on the hour. We got a few more minutes for anybody to make any comments.
No, but Santi wants to say hi to everybody.
What?
Say hi. Say kiss. Kiss.
I just wanted to say that with the brain vitamins from Dr. Amon's clinic, I saw great improvement. It's not like automatic that you're going to take them and you're going to feel better that day. But I just, for those who are out there, give it a try, and see how you do with it. I would say give it at least a month of being on it, and see if it works for you.
I'm taking it, Arlene.
And anybody who wants to learn more about those vitamins, K is our rep for that. And also, like, if you're interested in the Vox socks, some of the guys use the Vox socks. You can get those through K, and we get that we get the Life Aid discount, so it's pretty good. 50% off.
Okay, and also too, I know out in Bend, I was providing some of the Norella product that we have. I don't know if everyone got any, but we were more than happy to, if you haven't gotten some, to provide you just to give it a try as well. So Dr. John was actually
the Norella.
Norella, yeah. Dr. John was one of the head scientists behind putting that together as well. But if you guys want to reach out to me, I'll be more than happy to supply with some free bottles.
Are those bottles that you had up in Bend?
Yes. Yep, the blue ones.
Yeah, David.
Yeah.
That's the special vitamin Nutella.
Only for you, David.
You've been riding on your motorcycle too long, David.
So if you didn't get one, I apologize out in Bend. But please let me know, and I'll be more than happy to send some out to you guys. Okay?
No, that's great. And I know that we had talked about, Matt, in the future trying to work on some stuff with some immune support, supplements. And there's a couple people on the call today that I'm talking with on the whole diet, nutrition, exercise piece, where we can come up with some products that can, especially that fit in with what our mission is: brain health and immune system. David.
Yeah, and Dr. John is working on some new projects also from the nutritional and the balance side, specifically focused on the brain health, and then also more into brackets. So people who may be in cognitive area enhancement there, or elderly, or veteran specific things for PTSD that help additional. So soon there'll be more we can offer there too, and help in that. And personally, I need to thank everybody at Ben. I apologize I didn't make it there. Personal matters ongoing, but that video of Matt, every time I get depressed,
I'm surprised it hasn't gone viral yet. I was waiting for America's Funniest Home Videos.
Matt, Jim, I want you to know that the locals still enjoy that video here, and they put it on slow-mo on big screens.
Jim, did you get to see mine? Mine was pretty bad.
I didn't want to say that, Arlene, but I'm glad that your brain is still scanned well. Oh my gosh, that was too much.
All the doctors at work got a chuckle out of mine.
Oh boy, I just saw that, because the sad thing is I probably would have done the same thing as Matt. So I'm like, oh man, thank you.
Well, I tell you, man, it's a good thing we don't have any fun at our events or in our program. We're all so somber, and it's like silence, like the church. I want to give a big shout out to Susan. She's on the call. Susan Hudson, our friend down in New Orleans. Hopefully you're not having to build Noah's Ark down there yet. Stay safe from the rain. And I did hear from Tarek McGuire, and I'm glad things are going well there. For those of you that don't know, with our voice project, we've had some really great success working with police departments and communities and improving our ABCs to better communities. And Susan's been instrumental in helping us. And the Arlington Police Department is hopefully getting a new police chief, Tarek McGuire, who you guys remember from our town hall, and they're going to institute civilian oversight for their police department down there in Arlington. And because of Susan's work on that same town hall, you know, she's consulting with them and helping her organization making that happen. Thanks. She's on mute, so, but I just wanted to give you a shout out because, you know, anytime you have good success, we want to share the news.
Thank you, John.
No, it's great. I think we have some of the LAPD guys here on the call. They've been under a lot of stress lately with everything going on here in LA. I'm sure you guys heard about the two sheriffs that were ambushed. Luckily, they're doing better. You know, we've had quite a bit of stuff going on, and we like to say shout out and support to those LAPD guys who have been injured on the job, and we'll see a lot of them when we come to LA. Gerada, I think, is here, so thanks, Gerada.
Hopefully we'll remember the key for the U-Haul this
yeah,
time.
who was in charge of that? Was that Paco or was that Javier that messed that up?
There's controversy about that one also.
There was some back and forth in LA.
Well, this time we'll have Matt with us, and we can just sling him on like a trapeze or something, and he'll just break through the door or something.
Anything you guys need, you know, I'm here for you.
So thanks everybody for being on. Hopefully you've seen those pictures to all of our folks in DC from the Pentagon, Susie Lee and the VA and everyone else that was joining today. Appreciate you guys being on and listening in on what we're doing. You know, there's some pretty remarkable progress in those pictures. And I got to thank you, the vets, because, you know, you take control of your own health, and you know, we try to give you some guidance and try to provide you with some interventions and modalities. But at the end of the day, you guys have to do it, and you have to follow it. And for those that follow it, you've seen some tremendous success, and hopefully that's improved every aspect of your life, and that's what we're hoping to do. That's why we're called Life Aid. Anybody have anything else to say before we sign off?
I look forward to seeing everyone in November.
Daryl, you have
Thanks,
anything?
John. Great job as always.
Daryl, you have anything to add from the ROTC perspective?
Hey, John, this is Patrick Murphy. Just want that, I'm not on video, I'm just called in, heard the whole time. I just want to say congrats for all your hard work, and was really proud to be part of this special that you did for Discovery with our worker, et cetera. Proud to call you a friend and an advocate, and as an Iraq War veteran and a former acting secretary of the Army, just want to say thanks so much and keep up your work, brother.
I really appreciate, Patrick, you being on, and good luck to you. And I know you got a lot of things going on with the election coming up, and hopefully everything works out well. And I'm sure we'll talk soon. And like you said, I can't say enough about your support and helping make that TV show possible. And I think you were the one that got me reconnected with Maria. So good on you.
You got it, brother.
Does anyone need a copy of the or the YouTube channel, John? Maybe you want to tell people about how they can see it, and maybe spread the word or spread the video around to the friends and family?
You know, we have our Life Aid Research Institute YouTube channel. We post all our videos There's a bunch of stories about different vets. You can find the TV show there. You can also find the town hall that we did in Alabama. You'll be able to find this town hall probably later tonight or tomorrow. It'll be posted. There's shareable links. You can use them on your social media. You can send out emails to all your database and talk about, the TV show. And if you were in it, you can, to let people know. I really appreciate everybody's that participated in that and the work that they put in. I know that it's impacted a lot of you. I think Kay left, but Kay's been getting inundated by people reaching out to her from especially the first responder community. I think Jose, you guys have been getting some stuff. Paco's been getting some stuff. So it's been great. And hopefully we can do a lot more. There's a lot more. Like I tell everybody, finding people to help is not the problem.
So I posted it in the chat, and you want to share it with people. I mean, that's one way to get the word out and for people to donate.
Yes, we live off of donations, so donate as much as you can and donate often. We'd appreciate that, and I know a lot of you guys are working with Renata on fundraisers for the November event, so I appreciate that, and just really appreciate everybody's help. I want to thank my team, Dr. John, Jim, Matt. I think Chris has bugged out maybe. Okay.
No, I'm here.
Yeah, you're on the phone now. But thank you guys for all the hard work and all the work that we're doing, and we'll be excited to be releasing a report hopefully at the end of the month on our clinical care study and the results that we found. I'm sure if you watched the TV show, you've seen how the stories are. I'm here to say that the data will back that up, and we're going to be excited about sharing that with everybody. Anything else you want to say, Chris, before we go, or Jim?
No, thanks for doing this and looking forward to moving ahead.
Yeah, thanks again, John. Great job as always. And we all look forward to, even bringing it to another level. This is just the beginning. We're not even halfway there. This is just the beginning.
No, we're halfway there, Jim. Sorry, Javi, we can't.
All right, guys.
We can't hear you, Javi.
Thank you all.
We're always halfway there.
Go ahead, Daryl. You were going to say something?
Yeah, John. Yeah, thanks a lot. Another great town hall. We'll get the kids more engaged, especially if we can link this to STEM somehow, and I think we can very easily with the brain scan and all that. I think we can link it to science, technology, engineering, and math, and that'll bring them in a lot better, and they'll garner more support from LA Unified.
Yeah, it's all in the
leadership.
packaging.
You got it. It's the messaging. Thanks, John.